How's it going, guys? This is your budget gamer here, coming at you with an $800 editing and somewhat gaming build. So this build will come up to $823 at the base total, but if you use mail-in rebates, it'll go to $800. I know that's cheating a little bit, but you're not really getting cheaped out on any of the parts that I include in this build. So without further ado, I'm just going to start with the CPU. So for the CPU, I decided to choose the Intel Core i7-4790. So I decided to choose the non-K version because to fit the budget, you won't be able to overclock this. This is a quad-core processor. i7s are great for editing videos. The rendering times and editing times should be really good. It has an operating frequency of 3.6 gigahertz and a max turbo frequency of 4.0, just in case. It also has a very low thermal wattage of 84 watts. It includes its own CPU cooler, and hyper-threading is obviously included because it's an i7. A lot of people have very good things to say about 4790s in general. They are the earlier generation of processors. Obviously, the newer ones now are the Skylake processors. So if you really want the newest of the new, go for the Skylake 6700 series, and yeah. With that usually comes higher prices of RAM and so forth. So for the motherboard, I decided to choose the ASRock H97 Anniversary Edition. This is a micro ATX, or this is a regular ATX motherboard. The DDR types support up to 1600 megahertz of DDR3, which is the last generation, which is fine. It's fine. The maximum memory size is 32 gigabytes, which is fine. I'll be putting 8 gigabytes in this build, but you could upgrade down the line with the amount of RAM slots you have. You have about 4 RAM slots, so you could upgrade as much as you want. You could choose 16 gigs right off the bat and upgrade to 32 later if you want to. That's more for an editing purpose, not for a gaming purpose. It does support RAID support, and it also has 6 gigabit per second ports. And it also has USB 3.0 header, so you'll be utilizing that for your case. For the RAM, I decided to choose the Kingston HyperX Fury Blue, one 8 gigabyte stick. So you could upgrade to 32 gigs down the line if you want to. Usually, if you want better performance, you could get dual channel, so you get 4 gigabyte sticks to make 8 gigabytes. But just for upgrading down the line, I think this is actually more useful. It runs at 1600 megahertz, and it has its own heat spreader. It has a blue and silver color scheme, and you'll notice why I do that later down the line. For the storage, I decided to choose the Western Digital Cavier Blue 1TB, running at 7200 megahertz RPM. Sorry. This is very common in almost every build you see, especially with video editing. You're gonna run out of space maybe quite quickly, so you have to keep deleting it and reinstalling and stuff like that. But at least it beats an SSD in terms of price to storage space. If you really want to, you could get an SSD for this build, but obviously it's not feasible in this budget. But yeah, usually this works out for most people. For the video card, I decided to choose the GTX 750 Ti. Now, obviously, if your CPU is way better than the GPU in terms of rendering, and to be honest, you can't really fit a better graphics card in this budget. But I would suggest, if you have the choice maybe later down the line, get a way better graphics card, and you won't be bottlenecked by the CPU that we put in this build, because the CPU, I made the crux of the CPU in this build. So yeah. So this one basically could play any game at 1080p, most likely console settings if you're deciding to max out the settings, but usually if you dumb it down to high, you could get around 40 to 50 frames a second for most games, no problem. CSGO, League of Legends, you're going to get over 100 frames a second, no problem. This is a 2 gigabyte video card, so it's more catered to the 1080p games that we have nowadays. Very low wattage of 60 watts. Includes one DVI, one DisplayPort, and one HDMI port, and supports G-Sync. So that's very nice if you have a G-Sync monitor. You can see no screen tearing in your games. So this is a pretty good build in terms of gaming, actually, when I really think about it. So for the case, I decided to choose the BitFenix Shinobi window. white version, and this is an ATX mid tower. It's very interesting when I decided to check out the review for this. It actually has quite a bit of features. It has 2 listed 8 hard drive bays. It has a window, although the window is quite small, and it actually is kind of like a triangle instead of your traditional square. But that's because this case was made about 5 years ago. But it does look very slick. It includes 7 hard drive bays, which is huge. The only problem is that the hard drive bays face the motherboard, so you're gonna have to worry a little bit about GPU clearance in the future because the 750 Ti is very small. It won't really block any hard drive bays. It also has a 3 5.25-inch CD optical drive bays, which is nice, and the motherboard compatibility is compatible with whatever you want: ATX, micro ATX, mini ITX, thin mini ITX. I've never even heard of that. Yeah, so it's very compatible in terms of that. Plus, white color scheme looks slick, and I also got a blue and silver RAM kit for you, so that in the future that will also work out with your color scheme. This also has front panel USB 3.0 headers, just like the motherboard, so that also works. And it also, so far, seemingly no reviews on it, which is kind of weird. But yeah, Cavier Computers sells it cheaper than any other store, so I suggest getting it there. And for the power supply, I decided to choose the EVGA 430 watt 80 plus certified power supply. Now, maybe for graphics cards that are really power hungry, maybe this isn't useful. But our i7 uses only 84 watts. Our 750 Ti only uses 60 watts. So you're barely using anything in this build. So really 430 watts is more than enough. It also has an 80 plus efficiency of silver, which is very good in terms of energy efficiency pulled from the wall. And yeah, so this build comes up to $823 once again. And if you were to use the mail-in rebate for your motherboard at this point, it does end fairly soon. You can get this build for $800. But yeah, either way, this is actually a very good build. You're not getting like bottlenecked in any way, and you aren't cheaping out anywhere on any part. If I were to cheap out just to build, just to make this budget, everybody else would suffer as a result. So yeah, thank you for watching. This is Your Budget Gamer, signing out.